It was the year 2020, a new decade of changes, hopes, and exciting stuff ahead. 56 years after Japan last hosted Summer Olympics, the whole world was looking forward to the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. For us, we even had our air tickets booked. But before we knew it, things took a dramatic turn. Cities were shut down, the trains became empty, and so were the airports. During the pandemic, Singapore's Changi Airport was even briefly closed to the public for a few months due to an outbreak among airport employees. Commercial flight operations were suspended in 2 out of 4 terminals in the airport. T2 closed for renovations, and the space in T4 was reallocated for various purposes. At one point in time, it became the main vaccination center for airport employees, making it one of the first COVID-19 vaccination centers in Singapore. "1.5 years later, in September 2021, Singapore was finally slowly opening up. First, with the introduction of a concept called Vaccinated Travel Lanes, a policy that allowed limited, quarantine-free travels between specific countries. Both of us work in public healthcare and were still unable to travel. But that didn't stop us from visiting Changi Airport, just so as to reminisce the pre-pandemic days when we were able to travel as and when we wanted to. Despite travel resuming slowly, the airport was still pretty much deserted and empty. Alright, enough of dramatic introduction. Welcome to this 2-part series documenting Changi Airport's Terminal 4 during the pandemic. In this first episode, we take a look at the terminal when it was still closed to commercial air traffic. Despite that, the airport held a glamping event in December 2021, allowing members of public a rare chance to enter the airside area of T4. When else can you see tents being set up right in front of a boarding gate, or clubbing music being played all over the terminal's check-in hall? And how about people racing on go-kart cars in the terminal, or competing in a game of darts in front of closed duty-free shops? This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime event, one that was really cool to be a part of, but also something that we do not hope to experience again, because this is not what airports are built for. The journey began from a bus ride. Boarding the bus bound for the airport, it really felt as though we were going overseas that day. Throughout the pandemic, apart from a brief closure, Changi Airport remained open to public, and many Singaporeans were just like us, visiting the airport as and when we had free time, despite not actually holding on to any flight itinerary. During that era when borders were mostly all closed, having a meal in the airport was as close as we could get to going overseas. It feels surreal editing this video in 2023 now that we went through a period of time like this. The glamping event that we signed up for was part of a month-long event called the Changi Festive Village. It was Changi Airport's way of attracting locals to visit the airport and to spend more time and money there. Our glamping staycation costed 390 Singapore dollars, so we definitely contributed to the airport's revenue during the pandemic. Was the airport management successful in attracting people? It definitely felt like they were. Keep in mind that this was actually a closed terminal with no flight operations. Walking through the terminal, it definitely did not feel like an airport at all if you ignore the airport equipment and signages all around us. It was undeniably quite fun to be able to play carnival-like games in the terminal's check-in hall. These games were however not our forte, so we were unsuccessful in most of them, except for one that was relatively easy. We gave away our prize to a small boy, and his excitement brought smiles to our faces too. The other really cool activity was to join the go-kart racing experience at the check-in zones. This activity was quite expensive, so we gave it a miss. Nonetheless, just looking at the other people racing on the cars was already cool enough. Reality sank in as we walked around the terminal, seeing shops like this that were temporarily closed, as there were no passengers in the terminal. Just the thought of the terminal being empty for the most of the year 2021 made me feel pretty frustrated with the pandemic at that point in time. Apart from games and pop-up stores, there were also lots of F&B options. However, we opted to order our dinner via the Changi Eats delivery service instead, and got our meals delivered from the food outlets at Terminal 3. This was not included in the glamping package, but was nevertheless a really interesting experience. Just think about it, you usually only order food via delivery services to your home or office. When else do you get a chance to do this? At an airport terminal. Let us move on to the second part of this video, the exciting portion. The glamping event took place throughout the year-end period of 2021, and one night in the tents came with a steep price tag. From Mondays to Wednesdays, an overnight stay costed 360 Singapore dollars. Between Thursdays and Sundays, this price tag increased to 390 Singapore dollars, which was what we paid. Over the Christmas and New Year holidays, it costed 420 Singapore dollars. Despite the costly price tags, we decided to bite the bullet and immerse into this experience because it was likely the only time we could stay overnight in a tent within the airside area of an airport terminal. The check-in process required verification of our passports as we were entering the airside zone. It was quite a nostalgic experience holding our passports in queue. After getting our identity verified, we were directed to walk through the automated gates and past the closed duty-free shops. The first aircraft we saw was a Jetstar A320. While I was excited to see an airplane finally, I also told Kelly that I wouldn't want our first flight after the pandemic to be a Jetstar flight. Well, in the end, it turned out to be a Jetstar Asia flight to Kuala Lumpur, a few months later after this video was filmed. Click the link in the video now to watch that flight report. After passing immigration, we were gathered around gate G5 for the events company to give us a briefing before we received our travel documents for the day. Though these documents were not used at the boarding gates that day. Our assigned tent was near gate G6, just a short walk away from everything. Let's take a look around our bedroom and living room for the day. After taking a look at our tent, we went for a walk around the airside area. Basically, we were free to roam around most of the airside zone of the terminal, apart from the middle part that was cordoned off. It was definitely a sad sight seeing the dimmed lighting, closed shops, and facilities. The next section was the centerpiece of this terminal's airside zone beneath the Cathay Pacific and Blossom lounges. This area, was converted to a game and movie zone during the glamping events. The age gates were cordoned off as well, otherwise it would have been interesting to try out the slides. I don't think these gates are being frequently used even up till now, since Terminal 4 is still not operating at capacity. That day, we spent most of our afternoon playing table tennis and darts at the entertainment zone. I was not expecting myself to perspire at first, so the opportunity to exercise in T4's airside zone came as a big surprise. We then spent our evening at the carnival held around the check-in counters, which you have already seen in the earlier part of this video. As the nights progressed, we came back to our tent for dinner and movie. With the glamping package came 2 complimentary movie coupons that we could stream online. Watching a movie in a tent like this may look comfortable now, but I actually didn't find the bed very nice. It was an air bed, so as you can guess, was not the most comfortable staycation bed one can hope for. After all, this was all about the experience, not so much on comfort. We called it a night even before our first movie concluded, because honestly, this was quite a tiring day trying to participate in so many events in the airport. Good morning from Terminal 4. The official name of this event was Glamping by the runway, but in actual fact, we were actually not that close to the runway. Anyway, we woke up the next morning with a view of 2 Singapore Airlines aircrafts, which was definitely still a rare experience. Breakfast was included in the glamping package, but there was no coffee, so we had to purchase our own coffee at the vending machine.
加油！加油！他看起来超辛苦的。好了。Are you ready for breakfast? Okay. 2块钱而已，还好吧？
来对7-Eleven
对，人家7-Eleven coffee很好喝。
Before we conclude this video, let me take you on a walk along the boarding gates of Terminal 4 and also show you some photos of the terminal. In episode 2, we will return to Terminal 4 again, but this time in the year 2022. It was on the first weekend of the terminal's reopening. In that video, I will document the experience flying out and back into Terminal 4 during the initial phase of the terminal's reopening. Do look forward to that video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss it. Our first and hopefully last glamping experience at Changi Airport's Terminal 4 quickly came to an end. Looking at the video now while editing, it still feels surreal that we were actually able to walk the reverse direction past the immigration counters in the departure area. That was definitely a weird experience. While we arrived from nowhere and basically remained in the same terminal throughout our stay, we still had to head down to the arrival level so as to catch our bus back home. With this, we look forward to no more glamping experience in the terminal, but rather more flights and upcoming travels flying out of Changi Airport. Do remember to like and share the video, and also to subscribe to our channel for more upcoming travel contents. Meanwhile, stay healthy, travel safe, and see you next time.